What has he done? Has the quest for Bigsby-like action and crazy tremolos reached, well, the point where we should maybe ask for help? No. Hey boys and girls, I'm Nick in the States. If you're new to the channel, click the subscribe thing, click the little bell, get a notification, like and comment to your heart's content. We play with gear here. Cheap gear, fun gear, things to modify. Like this Squier Bullet Mustang that has, well, it's got a whammy fiddler thing sitting on it. What the heck is that? We'll talk about it. That little guy is a Wilkinson Wigsby. It is not a Bigsby, it is a Wigsby. And as you can see from the logo, it's very close to a Bigsby logo. Now, before everyone goes rampantly running out and buying these, short attention span style, it does require routing underneath it before you put it on the top. So, hold off on that eBay purchase until you watch through the full steps outlined here. But, most of you will remember, many of you remember, one of you may remember, that a while back I got the Squier Bullet Mustang, and I really liked this guitar. The pickups sounded better than they should, and it became like just a fun little Swiss Army knife guitar. It played great, had punch, sound. It had no right to be or play as good as it is. And I like this guitar a lot. But it wasn't carving out playing time. It wasn't carving out attention for me because I have too many guitars and I'm a moron. So, what did I decide to do? My friend Danny is, everybody should have a friend that's a bad influence or a partner in crime through things. And Danny is mine in many of the guitar shenanigans. We've seen him on some of the videos before. A year or two ago, I think in Guitar Madness, he was on a couple. And we'll have him on some more soon. But Danny loves offset fender designs. Offset. Top belt is offset from the lower belt, like the guitar leans. And he's a huge offset fan. He's a complete dork about it. So he called me up and he said, I really want to make a Bronco. This is a Fender Bronco. Fender Bronco is a single pickup diagonal, single coil in the bridge, but basically a Mustang with the world's weirdest bridge and a one-time run bridge that Fender did just for the Bronco. And they sold in the 70s, and so Danny he just had found a vintage one, bought it. Thing is awesome. But he decided he wanted to make a Bronco 2. Not that Bronco 2, but a Bronco 2 like a Bronco, but with a modern thing. And we went back and forth and discovered that the cheapest way to start is one of these Mustangs, because a Bronco is just a Mustang with a single pickup here, no flip switch, and it has a plastic guard that goes all the way down around there. We'll talk about that project later. Anyway, in discussions for that, I said the Bronco has one of the most ugly, strange, weird, awesome trems that you find. You're going to need to find another one, so I searched for strange tremolo. And I found a Wigsby, and I went, what the hell is that? And they're like $50 in the States, shipped, 48, something like that. And before I could do anything, I had already clicked and bought one. And then thought about putting it on mine. He was going to go a different way with his, which was cool. And so I thought about putting this on this guy. And did some research, just not a ton of information out there. So I'm hoping this video will help those Wigsbyophiles put together and build their own. Long story done. Let's talk about what we had to do. So before you get started, here's the thing. The documentation for this Wigsby isn't the greatest. So this is the way the springs hang down underneath the Wigsby. There's actually two little springs there and kind of retaining claw. You've got to route into the body, but they don't ship the Wigsby with a template. Hey, Wilkinson, a template would be wonderful. So you kind of had to make your own. So what I did was I lined it up again next to a piece of paper, kind of roughed out where I thought it would line up, drew a center line down the paper, folded it over, and kind of roughed out the shape. And you can see here is it folded over, and here's it laid out flat. And now I tasted over the back of the Wigsby to see if my cutout shape matches the shape of the Wigsby that's there. You can see the Wigsby on the front, kind of lined up against it. I didn't take away enough material here, and we'll talk about that towards the end of the video, because you need more room for where that spring and claw swings as you lean into the Bigsby. But I learned that mistake later. But I'll give you a hint now that this little template isn't perfect. I'm also going to scan in and have a PDF version of that template in 8.5 by 11 format so that you can print it out as well with measurements on it so that you can use that as a template for adding a Wigsby to your guitar. The next step is to take the bridge off the Mustang, and this is just a classic Fender top mount hardtail bridge. So there's 5 screws that hold on, unscrew that off there. So the bridge off is a trick there, and I don't have a great picture for it, I'm sorry. To line up, you want to look and see where the center of the saddles are with the bridge that exists on it. So as I lined up the replacement Mustang bridge, I looked and lined the saddles up to pick the depth there. Once I had those lined up the proper depth and when it was squared, I drilled a pilot hole first, and then I used a full-size bit with the right shaft width to drill the sink pots, because this bridge actually sits inside these 2 little sleeves. And what I did, is a common trick you can see here, is I tape off the bit at the depth of how far I want to go, so that as I go down I can have it stop and I have an idea, don't go too far. These Mustangs are very thin body, so you screw up and you're going through the back. I haven't gone through the back yet. I'm very happy about this. Here in the next picture you can see the 2 holes that are there, and we're going to have to remove some material from the pickguard just a little bit in the corners to make that bridge fit. Here you can see where I traced the edges of where that Mustang bridge overlapped with the guard, because it's going to hit it as no way down, and it's going to prevent it from getting as low as it needs to. And then using an X-Acto knife, kind of like how you would peel a carrot or a potato with a thing, doing shallow little pulls, I was able to then kind of carve that out enough that I think it fits and looks pretty nice. The next picture you can see my test fitting with the bridge on it. Doesn't it look wonderful? What I chose to do, and I've done this on many guitars that I take screws out of or remove things that have a screw hole, is I screwed the 3 visible leftover screw holes in, and I just put the screws back into them. Instead of having a little hole there that may attract attention, this one I'm acknowledging it and just having a screw there, and then if I ever want to put something back, I have the screw to do it. So before I did anything, I wanted to make sure that the Mustang bridge, as it sits there, was going to work here. So I used my trusty mess of a kitchen. Gosh, the kids are making slime in the background. That's what that's from. There's no Arm & Hammer baking soda needed in this project. I laid across from the nut, all the way across and rested on the bridge, and I look at the height of the strings as what it would be up on that bridge. And as looking at things, it's perfect. I actually had to raise the bridge up ever so slightly, but it works out great. I don't have to shim the neck. I don't have to do anything like that. Good little checksum. I've had Mustang bridges, depending on the bridge, how you sink it, whatnot, where I've had to put a little bit of shim in the neck just to get it so it played well. Next, what I wanted to do is I need to find the center line. So I used that center screw, which I did a couple quick measurements and realized the center screw was in fact in the center. And I lined it up with the tailpiece, drew a straight line, and then measured across to make sure that that was in fact straight. And drew a center line there. And that gave me a point of reference, which was really useful in the next steps of this, because if you put this on crooked, it will bother you. It will bug you. It will drive you crazy forever. And it'll really piss off people that watch your channel. And they will all let you know in the comments for years and years to come. Next in this picture, you can see what I did was that template that I had drawn a center line down too, and because I folded it over, it was very natural. So I was able to line up on the center line and tape it off. What I also had done, and you don't really see it here, is I had cut the template out so that with it slipped over the Wigsby, the bottom edge, the edge that would be towards the end of the guitar, is the same length as the Wigsby itself is, so that I could figure out how to position on the guitar when I route. You screw this up, it might hang over the edge or be way too far towards the front. Another thing I'll say about positioning. When you're looking at a tremolo, one of the challenges is you want to make sure that there's a long enough distance from where the trem ends and where your bridge begins so that the strings have a chance to come up and rise over. If you go too close to them, the strings will hit the trailing back edge of the metal of that bridge, and that's not really desirable. So I got this lined up nice and clean. Here you can see where I took it off, and you can see it all laid out there. Now, some people, when they don't know what they're doing, in previous iterations, would just drill a single hole, throw your router in there, and go nutty. It's a great way to screw things up. The router catches, it's doing a ton of work, it'll burn the wood, it's way too much work. The much better way of doing it, especially when you're going to use something like a Dremel with a precision routing base, looks like this. And you can buy a little bit kit for it that actually has a little router bit that looks like this that I used on this project. You can, it will make life a hell of a lot better. But what you start with doing is, and here's where I start drilling. So using the same technique, I measure how far down I think that claw needs to go. I tape off on the drill bit like we did before, and then I start drilling holes. And the key thing here is to spread out your holes in a way that you don't keep falling into the hole next to it, but drill up the whole area, because now the router is just basically ripping out and leveling in between existing holes. Works a hell of a lot easier. It's very quick. The drill does a great job of pulling the wood out of your way so it doesn't clog and get on fire. But this is a great way to do it, being sure not to really go over the edge. Especially the front edge that's closest to the bridge, the hole needs to be very close. If you, in looking at how the Wigsby is, you've got to nail that line perfect. If you go much further, you're going to see the hole there. The metal doesn't have a lot of front lip between there and where the claw starts. So you want to make sure that you're very precise on that one edge. The other edges, you've got some leeway that you can make some mistakes with, but that one is dangerous. And here you can see the first pass. And with this one, what I did was I set my router only so it's going down about a third of the way to the bottom that's there. And then I go and do a first pass. This makes sense to do in sections. You can see here I've done basically 2 sections, the top, middle, and the left side. If you were to do all of that at once, the challenge that you're going to have is when you're trying to do the middle, the precision base has nothing to precisionally base on, and you'll fall in and just start digging to China or to your table underneath the guitar as you're routing it. That's a problem, right? So you work on sections to get down into levels. I continued this process to the point that I had reached as deep as that bit would go in my router. And then I was able to freeform hand route to go down further and kind of work through it. But with the bass kept me from really screwing things up through the early part. And I was able to get things down to a nice smooth bass that's there. And I was able to then test fit the Wigsby and get an idea of what it actually would look like. And once again, that center line is useful because there's a center line mark in the middle front roller. And then the screw hole that's down below the adjuster is right on the center line too. And you can see through it and see the line and line it right up. Oh my gosh, it's like I might know what I'm doing once in a while. It's when you drill through a finished top and have tape next to it, it tends not to screw the finish up as much as if it was just loose because the finish has got more, it keeps it from having too much torsion on little edges of tape that wants to tear out, which happened a little bit when I drilled the posts for the Mustang bridge. And here you have the test fit with me going, oh my gosh, man, like this might just work. Another angle, because why not? Then I put some strings on it, and it looked like this. And I went, this thing is amazing. And then I took the gratuitous photo. Yes. Well, right around here, I strummed it, tuned it up, and went to use the bar, and I went, thunk. Yes. So next steps on this. It is in, but guess what? All that routing, all that fun, don't whammy much. It don't whammy much because I precision routed underneath here, but when you push the bar down, there's that little claw goes and hits the end of where I routed and basically bottoms out. Joy! So, between now and next Sunday, I'll pop this off here. I will free route some more with the Dremel to give it more space as it comes down this way. Throw this baby back on, tune it up, get it strong, get it intonated, and hopefully be able to play it with some lush, Bigsby-like, or Wigsby-ish, or Wigsby-influenced goodness. Oh, goodness. So that's where it goes. From there, we've had thoughts of potentially changing the pickguard to something of more interesting colors. We've had thoughts of, there's so much chrome here, we should probably have chrome here and chrome here. And as much as it pains me to change these pickups, because I really like the tones of them, they don't have pole pieces, like true pole pieces screws. So if I were to put a chrome cover on the two of them, they would look a little strange. So I might need to put new pickups in it. But those will be down the line. First, I want to get this thing Wigsbying correctly, and I want to get this thing intonated because we had to flip the bridge around, I got to do all the intonation, all that stuff, and I want to get it making noise and playing and having fun. But until then, yes, folks, I've been Nick in the States. I do have issues. Thanks for coming by and sharing them. Welcome back to Project Sundays, and hopefully next Sunday I will see you. You're still here. You need to go home. The video's, it's over. We've moved on. You should, you could subscribe right here, or we'll watch these things, but there's nothing else to see here. Just move along.